Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Paranormal Insight. I'm your host, Tim Sedano. Let's talk about cameras. Camera batteries drain rather quickly, even the fatter ones. You might get an hour or two, or make that 2 or 3 hours out of it. But a lot, especially if you're doing a larger house or you're outdoors, you're going to need an external battery source, an external power source. I like let me get that for you real quick. Okay, here's what I'm talking about. This camera here is a little it's a Sony knockoff basically. It's a camcorder, it's 4K capable, and it runs off of the typical batteries that would go here. But I also employ in the field aside from having batteries at the ready to go in here, what I do first is I have a battery pack that's compatible with the camera. In this case, it's a USB to a mini USB that goes into the camera. And these things are great. I ran for a separate project. I ran these cameras for something like 2, 3 hours, and I didn't even use a quarter of the charge on this thing. So these are great if you're doing long haul investigations where you're out in the field a lot. I have 4 of these and 2 cameras. So I'm good to go. And if you need supplemental power, that's where this thing comes in because as soon as this gets used up, look on the onboard battery takes over until you can plug a new one of these in if you need to. But like I said, these things last a lot. If 3 hours is 1/4 of a charge on this thing. So let's call it, you can get up to maybe 10, 12 hours on this. This, just so you know, is a Belkin, and the model number eludes me, but I'll post it in the description of the video. So Belkin batteries with these little low power cameras, perfect. Now, when we're talking about cameras, this camera does come with a microphone. There's a built-in microphone that's really it's not very good. So I use it came with it. It's an extension. It looks like a little Rode camera, similar to what the mic is here. That's a Rode camera, but this is for podcasting. And the one on here is smaller and it's meant for recording. It needs to be charged, as do a lot of things these days, rely on separate charging. So that's not always super reliable. What I like to use is this. This is a Zoom H1N. Now it's small. It's not the big fat one you can get. That's okay too, but I like the compactability of this, and it's every bit as good as the big ones. The sound is superior. You have to see you get the 2 little cross mics there. It gives you nice 360 stereo sound. I'm sorry, not 360 sound. It gives you stereo sound. Well, it is kind of 360. I take that back. Anyway, these are fantastic, and I recommend them highly if you're going to be using any auxiliary audio outside of your camera. You could use your phone to record audio, but I think if you're going to get EVPs that show up reliably, I guess, at a distance even, because some ghosts will talk to you from across the room. I've had that happen myself, and you can hear them at a distance. They won't be right here talking to you. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But at a distance, you'll be able to pick up sound and even isolate sound a little bit easier if you record on a separate device such as this that has a really, really high recording uh, modulation. I'll stick with that word for now because I think I used the wrong word there, but it's a high quality recording that you get from this particular device. Again, the one I use is the Zoom H1N. What I use as far as apps go, I have a folder on my phone here. You can see it's called Hunting, and I have 3 things. I have an audio recorder, just because in case I need it. I don't use it that much, but I have it. I also have a word bank. This one's called Paratalk or Paratech. Downside about this is it seems to spit things out randomly, not necessarily because of influence from the environment. Um, at its lowest setting, it'll kick things out every 40 seconds. I recommend pushing up to its highest maximum as far as randomness goes, and it seems to be a little more effective that way. Again, it's a word bank. It's just going to say certain things, including names, which is interesting because the first 3 or 4 times I used the device, it didn't give me any names. And then, like on the fourth and fifth try, it did. And I've never heard a word bank use names before, except for maybe Phil, with exploring with Phil. I think he's got names before. Next to that, it says radiation meter is actually an EMF meter. I think it has the ability to do both. The phone is actually pretty sensitive to stuff. The field on the phone is pretty localized, so you really have to go over and scan everything pretty close. I'll turn it on for you. You hit radiation detector, and that's your actual I'll put it in front of me. That's your actual EMF meter, believe it or not. EMF is a form of radiation, so technically they're correct. They're just trying to, I think they're trying to pass this off as a Geiger counter. Um, right now we're hovering between 20 and 22, give or take, 23 now. But you'll see there's a pulse. It's because I have an LED light. Remember I was telling you about LED lights right there, and I also got a microphone right here. So it's probably detecting that a little bit. Let's see if I can make that stand out. It actually got no, yeah, it went red there. That's bad. Everything technologically, let me check the light here. Yeah, this is a CFL. This is a CFL light, so it's cool. There's no radiation on it. LEDs and microphones apparently will touch off the detector, but it's really good. But like I said, you have to get really close to get an accurate detection. Good thing about this is if you set it up in the middle of the room where you know there is nothing and it starts going off, you can pretty much rest assured, I can't talk today, so sorry, that you have something unique happening. There's a pocket of EMF floating around your device. With regard to having such a phenomena happen where you do have your reader out there and it goes off, one of the best things to do is to either turn it off, wait a few minutes, and then turn it back on and see if it detects the same thing. Likely it won't. Parapsychology says that we are dealing with entities that like to toy with these different devices and make them go off. So they're attracted to, to things that make noise, um, which is kind of cool in a sense. Again, that's parapsychology, not absolutely reliable, but there you have it. But again, sorry, getting back to my point, if your device goes off in the middle of the room, record it, obviously. Hopefully, you have a camera on it, and then turn it off. And then turn it back on and wait another minute or two and see if you get a repeat performance. If you have to encourage, say, hey, we turned it back on, come and make that noise, Mr. Ghost. And 9 times out of 10, you'll get something that'll happen, even if it is briefly, but it'll go beep, beep, beep on a couple of different times. Briefly getting back to the Belkin units that I use, they're Belkin model 20Ks, 20K. And I want you to look at this. See the little lights right here? This particular battery pack has been sitting in a bag, a computer bag, for, I'll hit it again so you can see, about 6 months, and it still reads as having a full charge. I haven't tested to see if it is actually full, but it thinks it is, and I think that's amazing. So the ability for these things to hold a charge, up to the now anyway, is remarkable. I love these things. So Belkin 20Ks.
Let's go over some basics that I employ in S.C.A.R.I when we do investigations. Rule number one, do not share your name. Don't say, hi, my name is Joe Smith. What's your name? If you're out there doing a session, here's why. A lot of entities of the more nefarious and or evil sort tend to find power in knowing your name, the way knowing their name gives us power over them. So we don't share our names, and I recommend you do the same. As a practice of contact, do not, at S.C.A.R.I anyway, we do not use spirit boards, talking boards, Ouija boards, whatever it is you want to call them. We don't use them. I've personally had, and I have heard too many horror stories about the Ouija or talking board uh, going awry as far as making contact with something you really shouldn't make contact with, and something sneaking in and things going awry around the house, and suddenly there's ghost issues and all that fun stuff. So avoid talking boards, especially in an investigation. It's time consuming and it's not very practical communication method. And you're not always going to, you don't really know who you're going to be talking to. At least if you're out in the field and you're saying, what's your name? And you get a response on your device, you have it, that's a little more tangible than something spelling it out. And, anyway, so no talking boards. Number three for S.C.A.R.I is don't get scared. I know that's a tough one sometimes, especially if you're in an older house that has a lot of energy in it from past residents, for lack of a better term, who may be lingering still or causing trouble for the current residents. Things are going to go flash and pop and whiz, and that's a that's I made that way funnier than I intended. the it's stuff's going to happen. The objects are going to move. I remember one case JJ and I went on with Henry when he was still with us, and that that house was insane. They had all kinds of problems there, and there was this. I remember during the investigation, and we had lights on. We didn't go dark because the clients were there; they couldn't leave the house. Uh, and I'll get to clients in a second. Um, a bottle, a little water bottle, kind of like this one, it just and it was empty. It was rocking, and there was no AC. There were no fans, nothing, no wind, and yeah, the bottle, and then went, it just flew across this countertop like a breakfast bar. It just flew across that counter, popped off, and it went to the kitchen somewhere, and it kept falling. Uh, that was kind of interesting. It like it bounced a few more times than it really should have. Uh, mm, but yeah, don't get scared when these things happen. You have to come at it as professionally as you can. In fact, if you can prepare yourself before you go into the house, things are going to move. You're going to see a face right here all of a sudden sticking out of a doorway or a window or something. And, these things make sudden contact sometimes, these entities out there. And I'd say 80-90% of the time, it's just someone who's passed looking to say, hey, in a very bizarre sort of way. And they'll move an object or they'll say something in your ear or on your device. Like I said, it's just a method of communication. So don't be scared. Don't be scared or try not to be scared. If you're an investigator and you get freaked out and you go running out of the place, you've lost all your credibility. You've lost all your professionalism. You never get called or recommended for any other gig ever again. Or if you do, You're going to have to pretty much start over with your reputation. So don't be scared. I mentioned clients in the house during the investigation. Most of the television shows that feature paranormal investigators, or rather, do not have the problems us regular Joe and paranormal investigators do. In that, we don't have a $50,000 or $100,000 budget set to the side to send those people to a hotel. Never happens. Never happens. If I were like a billionaire or something, I might pull that off, but I'm not. Most of us do this for a nominal fee, very small nominal fee, if not if we charge anything at all. So clients are going to be there. And it's okay because they forget things a lot during the initial interview. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the initial interview. Your initial interview should be scripted. I know that sounds stupid and impersonal, but if you have a set thing, I keep it on my phone, a set list of things to ask your clients. And it's almost like a choose your own adventure book, because if they say they're experiencing poltergeists, oh, okay, what's moving? If they're saying, I hear footsteps in the attic. Do you have rat problems in the past? That type of thing. Do you have bad pipes? Which, believe it or not, it's been both on numerous occasions in the past for me and my team. I mean, we debunk so many things. And that's really your job as a paranormal investigator. You're there to eliminate the mundane so you can get to the nitty gritty and figure out, one, if there is a legitimate claim, and two, what's happening. Dress code. Dress code. You'll notice my scary shirt. All my team members get a scary shirt. It doesn't say the investigator because that's my job, but they get an investigator one, or it'll just be blank and it'll just say scary. And we have the description on the back. And, it helps to have uniforms. If you can get shirts made, fantastic. If you can't get shirts made or hats or anything with your logo, don't wear anything flashy. This isn't a fashion show. You're not looking to pick up a date. I don't care how cute your client might be. You're there to investigate. So you can wear closed-toed shoes. Yeah, had that happen a few times. Junior investigators come in and they're dressed like they're going to the beach practically, extra short shorts and a halter top. And, come on, really, dude, this is how you're going to conduct an investigation? I had one woman show up in high heels. I mean, high heels. Like she was looking to show off her cute little body or whatever. And it was ridiculous because she was clonk, clonk, clonk. She was, okay, that's the other thing. Closed-toe shoes and soft shoes. Sneakers, tennis shoes, trainers, if you prefer the term. Don't wear high heels because it's sound contamination. If you're running audio in the other room, you're going to think that might be a ghost. And then you're going to be like, oh, no, it was, Amy trotting along in her high heels all over the house. So, yeah, dressing professionally and dressing comfortably is key. Things I'm going to recommend you have on hand as far as clothing goes. Overalls, Ghostbuster style. Okay. Not exactly like that, but they wore overalls for their job. Good thing too. But overalls are fantastic. They'll protect you, your clothes, and if you got the kind with the hood to protect your head a little bit, because sometimes you're going to have to go into a really messed up attic or basement or cellar or into I went to this one place that had secret passages that haven't been used, that were only recently rediscovered, hadn't been used in a long time, and they were covered in cobwebs. And they had rodents and bugs, and they had all kinds of problems. That place needed a fumigator like no one's business, but I digress. So coveralls, have a set on hand. Painter's coveralls are fine. They're disposable, the lightweight. If you want to get more permanent canvas or cotton coveralls, that's entirely up to you. But at least have one set of coveralls that will fit whoever's one brave enough and two small enough to fit into some of these narrower spaces and willing to explore them. So let's also talk about gear. Basics you need for an investigation. You need a recorder, a voice recorder. You need at least one camera with night vision capability and a flashlight. If you can find yourself someone who's psychic, all the better. If they could do cleansings, even better. One thing we at S.C.A.R.I are uniquely qualified to do, mostly thanks to JJ. In fact, entirely. I'll say it entirely thanks to JJ. JJ Rose, you're awesome. We have the ability to cleanse and or clear a house or dwelling or business or whatever it is. The ability to be able to cleanse that residence or business or whatever it is going to be invaluable, not only to you as an investigator or an investigation team, but to your clients. And it doesn't always require a psychic to be able to turn a home from this spooky place to this more relaxed place that exists in the light. An example, I've told this story before, but before JJ joined the team, my buddy Henry and I caught this case where there was, everything was happening in this house. Object manipulation, full-bodied apparitions appearing, phantom sounds, entities that were not human at all. In fact, I saw one of them, but it didn't show up on camera. Still ticked about that to this day. But anyway, it's about the balance of the house. What I mean by that is this. In that particular house that I just described, there were along the hallway all these 5-pointed stars. Now they were hung point up. I believe they were hung point up. I seem to recall they were hung point up. They're paper lanterns, basically. You're supposed to stick a light in them, but no lights. But anyway, punched out were various other stars, most of which were pointed point down. And I know that's a matter of like 28 degrees of a 5-pointed star, depending on how you rotate it. But these things kind of matter. Now, in opposition to this relatively pagan display of all these star lanterns going down the hallway into the kitchen, which was the path that all this weirdness followed, I might add, in every single room was a crucifix on the wall. Simple, gold-plated or brass, I'm not sure what, crucifix. These people were Catholic, and they had this pagan stuff up, brought in by a mother-in-law, I believe, if I remember correctly, who went on a trip to South America, I think, somewhere, and collected all this pagan stuff. I thought it was really cool. Moved into the house for a while and then moved out and left all this stuff up. And it was interesting to note that when the mother-in-law moved in, that's when all the weirdness started. And it stayed there after she left. Me noticing that there was this collision of iconography, the pagan stars versus the Christian crosses. I said, look, do me a favor. And this is the last thing we did that night. Pull down all these stars, fold them up. Don't burn them. Do not burn them. I'll get in that in a sec. Don't burn them. Just fold them up, put them away in the attic, and forget about them. And I'll be back here in a week with your DVD. We gave DVDs back then. And we'll see how things are going for you. Well, I do a 2-day check-in. So 48 hours later, I call them, see how they're doing, and give them an update on our progress as far as going over the evidence and all that fun stuff and what we've discovered so far. And she says, yeah, things are okay. And I said, oh, fantastic. Well, I got done a little bit early. We were able to see them at the end of the following week. And Henry and I go over. And when we walk in, oh my, what a difference in the environment of this house. And I'm not a cleaner. I'm not a cleanser. I'm not a psychic like JJ at all. This is before we really had that kind of talent on the team. But again, the collision of iconography, that's a collision of energies and a lot of practices, really, both religious and magic, if you want to call it that. But yeah, those collisions are real. And we walk in, the stars are gone, and everyone's happy. And that place felt like a million times cooler and lighter. And I mean, because walking in, it was that just depressing heaviness. As soon as you walked in, it was stale and muggy, and it was horrible. But take you down the stars, took away that energy path that they were laid out in, and basically we laid that house to rest. And I'm no psychic. I'm no cleanser. I didn't do anything. I didn't throw any ooga booga on it. No offense to any of you practitioners out there. I know your stuff's legit, but I don't have those gifts. And it was simply a matter of observation. So let's talk about observation before we get into burning things or not burning things. In my past, I was a private detective. I did, I was an operative to be precise. I worked for a private detective and I got sent on surveillances and stuff like that. And I wanted to understand my role a little bit better. So I also took criminology courses, specifically detective courses. Believe it or not, actual courses. Detectives get certified in this stuff. They get degrees in criminology so they can do their jobs. And I took the same courses that they did. They were taking their what's that called? CE is the abbreviation, continuing education. And I took the same courses they did, so I got to hang out with actual police detectives who had actual cases and fantastic stories about all this crazy criminal activity. We'd always play this game. We'd have lunch and we go to the main cafeteria and we had a corner. We play this game. It's like, tell me about that person. And it was amazing. Some of these dudes were straight up just Sherlock Holmes, very Holmesian in their approach. And it's like, oh, he's left-handed. He's got 3 cats, and I think he still lives with his mother's. Get out of here. So one of us would go inquire. I said, my friends and I have a bet. So we'd ask them these questions like, you're right or left-handed? Oh, I'm right-handed. How many cats do you have? 2 or 3? 3. And do you still live at home with your mother? Yeah. How'd you know that? Every single time. So observation that, having that experience and that training in being a detective and being able to piece things together and seeing where, for example, in this house, these conflicts happen even energetically. And I know they're just paper stars hanging on the thing. I know that. But it's amazing how much, how much power that held in disturbing that environment is how I should have put it. So those things are absolutely real. And those things need to be taken into consideration. And you need to come at this job like a police detective, except you're looking for ghosts or evidence of ghosts. Yeah, you are looking for evidence. You may not have a badge, but you got your logo, maybe, hopefully. Take pride in that. Wear it. Let people know that you are a paranormal investigator. Let's briefly talk about burning stuff, and then we'll wrap it up. If something is deemed to be evil, or, and I said that way on purpose, deemed to be dark or evil or somehow anti-good, don't burn it. Simply throw it away. One thing you can do is X it out or cross it out, like take a marker to it or something, and eliminate it. That doesn't mean burn it then. Don't burn stuff. Why? Because you're creating, you're turning something material into energy, and the thought and theory on that is you could reinvigorate that evil force was left this item or influence that object that could be cursed or haunted or what have you. And that's why a lot of paranormal investigators who run across haunted objects or cursed objects give them to a specialty museum, if you will. There's a few of them out there that deal with this type of thing. And that's why they're there. They're repositories for all this weird stuff. And that's where they need to be. So don't burn stuff. Okay, that does it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm sorry I droned on, but I hope you found it informative. My name is Tim Sedano, lead investigator for S.C.A.R.I and host of Paranormal Insight. See you next time. Thank you for watching and listening. Please click the subscribe button and activate notifications for future episodes and other content. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram under @paranormal_insight.